So what's going on today, Trevor?
Not much. We had a really good class today. Home inspector came in and talked about residential electrical inspections.
Yeah, that was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like those guys. They're pretty entertaining. It's nice whenever they have a lot of experience too.
Well, it's nice because you talk to a lot of different home inspectors, but the knowledge that he brought to the table, he kept saying, well, like, what's the practical use
Right.
of this? As realtors, we're overstepping our boundaries into things that like we shouldn't be experts in. He's like, well, are you actually going to be opening that up? Are you going to be doing that as a realtor? We're like,
Right.
no,
Not really. Yeah.
So
That was pretty cool. And then other than that it's our property valuation week.
Yep.
Using a buy side or Percy AI,
Mm-hmm.
which is really neat because the industry largely focuses on buyer leads, right? So buyers go on websites like Zillow, Realtor.com, our websites, and they put in information and they want to they typically get buy leads, which is fine. But the nice thing about our property valuation week is it helps sellers get their value, right? And the really cool thing is it gives 3 estimates of value.
Right.
Where if you go to the popular websites, it'll give you one valuation, which is, it is what it is. So
yeah, and one of those
gives you the range.
One of those is always the Zillow because everybody's looking for Zillow.
People like
What does it
Zillow.
look like to compare it? And there's the 2 other options that like kind of swing in either direction.
And we know what happened with Zillow whenever they were using their own Zestimates to value the properties they were purchasing. It didn't last long. So, but the good thing is it brings the sellers out, and we tracked it. So last year we had roughly around 4,000 property valuations, and 10% of those turned into listings.
Right.
Which is insane. I don't know of any other product that's available to agents, especially for ours. It's free. It's something we provide. That if 400 listings, so just do the math. You want 10 more listings, put 100 more properties in there, and
so
it's 1,000 more properties.
It seems as a cool thing for agents to have, but I remember putting it in as a seller.
Yeah.
So as a homeowner, actually put it in. So every month I still get a report that shows me the breakdown of the market, where we're at. So like, why would it be a value to a homeowner to get it? I was like, well, it gives you a checkup on what's happening in the market. Is your value increasing? Is it decreasing? Right. Is it matching where the market's at? Does it make sense? But it just shows you what the activity is in correlation to like your home in your specific area.
And the really nice thing is it's tied to the individual agent. So, and it gives the 3 values. It's like the Zestimate, e-appraisals, public records, and things like that. But since it's tied to an agent, the agent could reach out to the customer could reach out to the agent, because the one thing the computer can't do is it can't walk through the house.
No.
And until the computers can do that, important part of the valuation.
Right.
Computer can't smell cigarette smoke. Computer can't see if you've upgraded the granite. Computer can't see your landscaping. The computers can't see, all of the really cool things a seller has done, or not cool things.
Yeah, it's not comparing one house to another, because that's what I see a problem with a lot of people looking at Zillow. They're like, well, it says my house is worth this. I'm like, well, what does your house look like compared to comparable sales? Is it better? Is it worse?
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing is the valuations without a human being involved, they can only look at like mathematical things like square foot. How old is the house? How many bathrooms does it have? How many bedrooms does it have? And just hard input and output data. It can't see color paint schemes. It can't see updates. It can't see any of those things. And, especially some of the historic homes, you can have a home that's built in 1900 and the same home is built across the street from 1900, and one home hasn't been touched since 1900. Another one has updated electrical, and it has updated appliances, and it has the asbestos and lead removed, and plumbing, and new roof, and new windows, and all of the things to modernize the home. But the computer will only see 1900, 2-bath, 3 bedrooms, whatever it is. It can't take those things into consideration.
Even looking at, what about short sales? If a home had a short sale, if there's a foreclosure, so it's taking all the data that's shortchanging the actual value of the home,
right?
And it's just compiling it into
Fortunately, we don't have a lot of those right now. So, that's great. When I first started, it was like half the market was short sales and foreclosure. So I guess that was just the normal.
I'm still running into it with REO sales, people selling below market value to get rid of stuff. So
Right.
when I've been running comps lately, I have come across it.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be a segment of distress sales. There's, deaths, taxes, divorce. There's always going to be reasons why there's going to be a certain percentage of the market that's going to be distressed, and that's
And I think that's the importance of the realtor is they look at those outliers. Like,
right?
Hey, we're going to pull these out. We're going to look at actual data that makes sense for your home. So that's why it's important with these property values.
Yeah,
like you're looking at that. You're like, is my home worth this? And I had a seller actually recently look. It's like, if that home is worth this much, mine has to be worth this much.
right.
And then I broke it down to them. I was like, well, actually. Like, no, and here's the reasons why.
Yeah, here's the reasons why. And hopefully they'll see your data. And some people are like, no, the computer says that. I'm like, okay, well,
we're dealing with somebody like that already.
Yeah.
With another agent in the office.
Yeah. So, but time always fixes things. So it's only price, condition, and marketing.
Yep.
So that's the really cool thing about the property valuation week is it helps us hone our skills, and it lets the customer know that the realtor is the most important aspect of the transaction when it comes to valuation, because the computers just can't get it right.
Yeah, and it's just allowing us to be advisors finally.
Right.
Like, again, after all this craziness, it's like, even what's cool is you can put it in your email and you can get those monthly reports. It's like, we're not here to, it'd be great if you want to list with us, show you value, but at the end of the day, we're here to advise you what's the best way for you to either
That's right.
For you to either use an equity in your house. Does it make sense to sell? Does it not? Like, what's your life happening right now?
Yeah, and there's a lot of agents out there or other business, and they're just purely looking at the transactional aspect of it. Like, do they need to buy or sell? We're advisors, right? Mm-hmm. Does it make sense to sell? Because selling the home is only a stepping stone in the next chapter in the life. It could be a job transfer, a growing family, a downsizing family. It could be lifestyle change. It could be a myriad of anything. So other than if it's a investor, but a normal typical family, there's a reason why. And if we can't help them achieve that reason why, then we need to tell them that, not just to sell them their house. And so the more of those valuations we get out, the more people we can help. Reach out to you and have that conversation. That's the most important thing, because you're providing something of value.
Yeah, but they just did the recent Ninja Flow, which the most recent one was a property valuation, and I got 6 inquiries on it.
Right, which is good.
A couple from people I've actually been actively talking to from the farming neighborhood, actually over in Wesley Chapel.
Oh, nice.
Had a couple.
Oh, very
in there. So sending out letters and stuff to them. So it's been interesting to see. People are very curious to see what they're.
Have you had conversations with those people that did the valuation?
I haven't had one yet. I've been following up with them.
Okay.
Because it only gives you the address. So unless you're able to find more emails from them and they, if they're going to actually talk to you.
Right.
So,
well, 6 is good. Mm-hmm. And the more you have in there, the more you're going to get.
Yeah. One of them being one of the first people my very first home sale.
Oh, nice.
So that was cool to see that. And it was just surprising to me how much a value of a home has changed within 4 years. So when people are talking about, the market's crashing, I'm like, well, you're still up 40% since 2018. We're down 10% since 2020. So yeah, your value increased by 50%. So now your value it's decreased by 10%. But
yeah, you're still up 40%, right? And that's the thing you were talking about earlier, is the herd mentality. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that have a ton of equity. That's why the property valuation week is so important, because they say, well, the interest rates are up, to 6.5%, give or take, 0.5% one way or the other. But those people that bought 4 or 5 years ago, they were buying at 4.5%.
Right.
So, and a lot of them didn't refi during the refi boom, because if you were at 4%, 4.5%, and to refi down to say 3.5% or whatever, your monthly payment would have been smaller, but it would have taken, and I looked at it myself, it would have taken almost 8.5, 9 years to recoup the closing cost to refi to a lower rate. So I'm like,
so it didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense, because I necessarily don't see ourselves in the house for another 10 years. So, But I have a ton of equity, and a lot of people have a ton of equity. So they're like, well, if I'm up 40-50% and I can put $200,000 down on the $600,000 house, even with a higher interest rate, I have such a lower principal that it's kind of a wash. Brandy and I actually ran a scenario with a buying up with $200,000 down to say a $500,000 house. The increase in payment for that 4.5% to the 6.5% with such a huge amount of down was only like $300 more a month. And people expect to pay a little bit more for twice the size of a house or twice the price of a house. So
in that situation, you're upgrading to a much bigger house for only $300 more a month.
Yeah, roughly the scenario that we ran. If you're putting $200,000 down, now your $500,000 house, you only have a $300,000 principal, so you don't have your mortgage insurance, so that's taken away so that jump isn't such a big jump. But the herd mentality out there is, oh my gosh, the sky's falling, rates are up, the market's down a little bit. Yeah, the market's down from it's down from Mount Everest, right? But year over year, or 5 years over 5 years, and real estate's not a frequent transaction, you're still in a really good position.
What do the Florida economists say? Like, don't compare to crazy.
Right.
So like the craziness was 2020, 2021, first half of 2022.
Right.
So like you can't effectively comp anything.
No.
It's 2021. So like don't compare to crazy. Compare to what a stable normal market was, which was 2019, 2018. How are we feeling?
Right.
So now it's still in a very strong seller's market. There's still a lot of buyer activity. We're seeing pendings go up. We're seeing inventory still kind of stay relatively low compared. So,
and the nice thing is a lot of people didn't want to sell because they didn't want to compete with crazy either. Right. Okay, I've got a good equity, but now I've got to compete with 10 offers ahead of mine that's all cash and no inspections and crazy stuff like that. Now you have a ton of equity.
Right. You can negotiate again.
Yeah, you can negotiate. You can breathe. You can maybe look at a couple homes on the weekend and think about it. Before it was like, okay, I like it. Let's do the offer right here on the hood of the car. So it's really important to talk to a professional like yourself, to be an advisor, to say, hey, where am I at? Where do I want to be? And let's look at those scenarios. And then it's up to the customer. Now they have an educated decision whether or not they want to move forward with that scenario or not. And there's a lot more people that I think than they realize that are in a much better buy or sell to buy position. Even with the higher interest rates because of the equity. Now, if they took all the equity out and bought RVs and Corvettes and stuff like that, then probably not. There's some of them out there too. But
So speaking of like the craziness of the market, I just had an experience where it was $1.5 million, $1.5 million home seller. So got in contact with him, but he had a realtor friend who he's known for a long time.
Right.
And the realtor made a statement to him, and he was freaking out, saying like it's going to take 7 to 12 years for him to sell his house, which is a really confusing statement to me. So basically, what he was saying is, he's like, well, in 2007, 2008, it took about 8 to 12 years for the market to correct itself. So he as a realtor was informing this homeowner that, hey, like don't sell your house now. It's going to take 7 to 12 years to sell. But he had listed it recently for like $2.25 million, which is overpriced, dropped it to 1.9, which is overpriced. So I came in, had the conversation saying, hey, here's comps, here's the current market. I blatantly told him I don't agree with you, friend. Is like the foundations of the market are very different than 2007, 2008. I feel like your home would sell for 1.5 to 1.6. And then lo and behold, he got an offer off market, full cash at 1.5. And I was like, well, if you would have put it on the market at 1.6, 1.7, you would have been still competitive. So the fear that he was operating in probably made him sell his home a little lower now because he had a cash buyer that came in and it may had this fear mentality. But then he kept asking, he's like, is now a good time to sell? Does Florida market are we down? Like what's going on? I was like, no, we're still a very strong market. We still have to price your home well. But I feel like a lot of realtors aren't doing their due diligence, looking at the market, understanding the history of the market, where we're going to effectively actually be able to advise their clients. Because what he said to me was like, you actually really sound like you know what you're doing. Like, well, all I'm doing is paying attention to the market, listening to the actual professionals.
Yeah, and the realtor friend saying 7 years, well, it was way overpriced.
Right.
And that was in Pinellas County, which was one of the hottest markets in the entire state.
Right.
So if you didn't sell it then, it was just flat out overpriced.
Right.
So maybe he was incorrect, and you might have to wait 7 years to want to get that overinflated price.
And they just had the realtor friend just put it in the market as a no brokerage relationship.
All right.
So he just put it in there, didn't do anything, didn't advertise it.
And you see that a lot is some people want to put their house on the market and save on commission, but you save zero on commission if you don't sell it. In that aspect, I think that maybe the friend didn't do him a service.
Sure.
You know, maybe they were just listening to the skies falling type of thing, because it obviously could have sold for 1.5 or more.
And
maybe not 2.2, but
right. You see realtors talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Like sky is falling, but they're not informed.
Right.
With what's happening. And, you know, sometimes there's a lot of misinformation out there too. So like, how do you filter through all the crap?
Right.
To, like, really understand like what's actually happening in the market? Because nobody truly knows what's going to happen.
Right.
But, you know, you can look at trends, you can look at where our foundations are, what's the mortgage, like what's the mortgage industry look like? You know, what's housing industry look like? So how do you go about trying to find accurate information?
Well, that's the thing, is there's so much information out there. I mean, there's over an abundance of information. So one of the things is finding a couple good sources. You know, like Florida Realtors puts out really good stuff. You know, I read a lot and do a lot of research myself. So, you know, obviously ask me, see what the numbers are behind it, who's actually doing the research. Because sometimes there's a slant because they're trying to sell a product, or, you know, a real estate agent can look up numbers, raw data in the MLS. That's kind of like where I like to go. Like you can wait for market statistics to come out. Right. They're usually at best a month to 2.5 months behind, but you can look at real-time data, solds. You can look on days on market. You can look at original sale price or original list price to sale price. So you can start to see those numbers start to fluctuate. And that's kind of where, you know, I like to go, because you can really boil it down to a neighborhood, a zip code, you know, a lot of other things. So, you know, go to those couple of sources, talk to some trusted professionals in the business. People have been doing it for a while. You know, you have real estate agents, and you know, they could be good ones, and they've only been in the market for 1.5 years.
Right.
They have no experience in the last market change or market shift. 87% of all licensed real estate agents today have never been through a market shift. So I mean, there's only 13%. I'm one of them, right?
Yeah.
I'm one of those agents that have been through a market shift. So, you know, take everything with a grain of salt and say, okay, well, not that they're disingenuous in their information. It's just, is it a well-formulated assumption, or, you know, is it data driven? Right. But there's numbers inside data too. Sometimes, you know, the data doesn't paint a clear picture either. So you got to kind of extrapolate things that you're wanting to make your case and use those. So
right. Awesome. Well, I gotta go get a haircut now.
Okay.
So gotta get out of here.
Go get a haircut.
Thanks, Trevor.
See ya.